Chapter 6 Registering as an Awakener. The inside of the Supers Association branch was a bit noisy, which surprised Michael greatly. Outside, he hadn't heard much sound, so he expected the building to be quiet, but it wasn't. There were actually quite a lot of people, most of them appearing very young. Michael didn't need to think much to realize that these people were probably new awakeners, just like him. With only 2 Supers Association branches in Woodstone City, it wasn't surprising to see many awakeners despite their rarity. Since all schools nationwide had chosen today for the awakening ceremony this year, most of the young people in the Supers Association building were likely the new awakeners from Woodstone City. After today, the number of new awakeners registering over the next 2 days should be low. Michael glanced around, and a rough count suggested there were at least 30 students present. This was quite a number, considering they all came from the 9 public and private schools in Woodstone City. As he took in his surroundings, Michael lined up behind one of the shorter queues leading to the reception table. He wasn't sure what to expect when he reached the front, but seeing others his age, likely fellow new awakeners, gave him some idea. Fortunately, Michael didn't have to wait long. 28 minutes later, he was near the front, with only one person ahead of him. Behind him, more people had joined the line. As Michael waited, he felt his phone vibrate in his pocket. He pulled it out and saw a new message. $300 has been transferred to your account 27********78, 4X Bank International, from Nia Grace. Your current account balance is $461. $300. That's quite a lot. Michael felt a little uncomfortable seeing how much his aunt had sent. Aunt Mia's monthly salary was only about $3,000, excluding occasional bonuses, and she had just transferred a tenth of it. Considering it was mid-June and Mia's salary typically arrived at the beginning of the month, this $300 could very well be a quarter of what she had left. Even back on Earth, $3,000 wasn't much for a family to live on. The $161 balance he had before was what remained from the $300 monthly allowance Aunt Mia gave him. Though Michael was concerned, he couldn't help but feel a warm sensation in his chest. He was truly loved in this world, something he had rarely felt back on Earth, where he had even faced his battle with cancer alone, with no one to care for him. As he thought of his family, Michael secretly clenched his fist, silently vowing once again to change their lives and take care of them. However, a wave of uncertainty washed over him. Is becoming an awakener truly life-changing for the average person? To be honest, everyone had been raised to believe that becoming an awakener was a one-way ticket to the top. But beyond the power it brought, the exact reasons and ways it transformed a life remained a mystery to most. It was common knowledge that power brought wealth, though. Michael, who had barely lived his adult years, was well aware of this. As various thoughts flashed through his mind, it was soon Michael's turn at the reception table. "Good day, sir. What can I do for you?" the lady behind the counter asked. She seemed to be in her late 20s and wore a professional smile. Her calm demeanor eased Michael's troubled mind a little, allowing him to reply calmly, "I'm here to register." As the lady inquired, glancing down at his school uniform. Usually, there were only 2 types of students who came to register. New awakeners are those talented enough to reach rank 1 as cultivators while still in school. Today was the National Awakening Ceremony Day, but she didn't want to jump to conclusions. "Yes, I'm here to register as an awakener," Michael confirmed. "Oh, I see," the lady replied, not appearing surprised by his response. After confirming his purpose, she began asking Michael a few questions. Most were about his personal details, like his name, age, and address. She even asked for his bank account number for some reason, which Michael provided without hesitation. Thankfully, the process was quick and surprisingly straightforward. "Aren't you going to ask about my class?" Michael asked, curious. "There's no need for that, Mr. Michael. Your school will provide that information to us," the lady replied in her signature smile. "Ah, I see," Michael said, understanding now. "I thought she might have forgotten to ask, but it makes sense." Even if the Supers Association had a way to verify one's class, doing it for every new registrant would take too much time. After pressing his fingerprint on a tool the lady provided and signing his name on a freshly printed document, she addressed him again, this time in a more formal tone. "Congratulations on your awakening, Mr. Michael. As of today, you are now a proud warrior of the Federation, the people, and the Aurora realm. As a new awakener of the Federation, a set of military cultivation techniques and martial techniques will be sent to your email. A link to a specially designed platform for supernaturals will also be provided. The password is your full name written in all caps, followed by this year's number, 228, with no spaces in between. Also, as a new awakener, you are eligible for a monthly payment of $15,000. This amount will be reduced by half if you fail to reach rank 1 within 6 months and will be revoked if you fail to become a rank 2 awakener within a year. Of course, the monthly payment will also increase alongside your advancement. Michael was a little overwhelmed by the sudden information dump, but one thing immediately caught his attention: money. It wasn't just the money, other benefits came with it too. Though the conditions seemed strict, it didn't change the fact that he was soon going to have a significant income. Michael's heart quickened a little, but before he could sink deeper into his thoughts, the lady behind the counter spoke again. "Is there anything else you'd like to ask about, Mr. Michael?" He was about to reflexively say, no, since he had grasped most of what she said when he remembered something. Feeling suddenly bashful, with a red face, he inquired in a low tone, "When will the monthly benefit arrive, miss?" Ah, the lady was visibly taken aback, but after regaining her composure, her smile grew even brighter, and it seemed she was struggling to hold back a laugh. Her reaction made Michael feel even more embarrassed, but thankfully, she didn't dwell on it. "It should arrive within an hour at most, sir," she replied. Michael nodded slightly, thanking the woman behind the counter before quickly making his way out of the Supers Association building. Though he didn't regret asking about the money, he couldn't help but feel a little self-conscious, worried it might have come across as if he cared more about the money than anything else, though, in truth, he kind of did. Anyway, with this, the house shouldn't be low on funds in a few months. Aunt won't have to work so hard anymore, and she and Lily can take better care of themselves now. Michael was filled with joy, but he didn't let his happiness blind him. He knew nothing came free in this world. Even as an awakener, the Federation wouldn't just hand out money without expecting something in return. Though it seems complicated, according to that lady, all I have to do to retain the benefits, and even improve them, is to get stronger. Michael had a clear goal now: to increase his strength quickly and make life better for himself and his family. Successfully awakening was just the beginning. But before anything else, he needed to get home and study more about awakeners once the Supers Association sent him the information. Chapter 7: Information about Awakeners and the Land of Origin. The journey back home required Michael to take another taxi, which he didn't hesitate to pay for. Though he felt his body had gotten stronger since his awakening, it didn't mean he had to push himself unnecessarily. His home was nowhere close to the Supers Association. From his school to his house was a 30-minute walk, and with the Supers Association's location added in, it would take him at least an hour and a half to get home. Now that he had money in his account and was soon going to receive much more, Michael didn't see any reason to be frugal. While in the taxi, he sent his aunt a message letting her know he was done registering at the Supers Association and was on his way home. It was also around this time that a bank notification arrived, informing him that $15,000 had been transferred to his account. I'm rich. I'm rich. Though Michael had seen larger sums in his previous life, it was easy to forget that he was currently playing the role of an 18-year-old, something he had fully embraced. Unlike earlier, when Aunt Mia had responded immediately, there was no quick reply this time, which didn't surprise Michael. He had considered sending Aunt Mia a portion of the money he received, but knowing her, she would probably panic and it might affect her work. Since there was no need to rush, he decided to wait until she got back home. Michael didn't have the taxi drop him directly at his house but rather at a mall near the community where his house was located. He hadn't forgotten his aunt's request to buy something for himself and his cousin, though he decided to use the money he received from the government instead of the amount she had given him. When his aunt returned later in the evening, he planned to return her money, along with extra. By the time Michael left the mall, he was carrying several bags. This round of shopping had cost him about $500. It might seem excessive to spend money like this, but Michael didn't regret it. For now, it was time for his family to enjoy life a little more. After all, what was the point of having money if not to spend it on oneself and loved ones? Of course, Michael had a limit to how much he would spend. He didn't know much yet, but he suspected that the government didn't provide benefits to new awakeners purely out of goodwill. He had a feeling that part of the money was meant to be a resource for growth. There's no need to overthink it. I'll understand better once I check the emails from the Supers Association. By the time Michael finally got home, the sun had already set. The awakening ceremony had been held at 12:30 in the afternoon, and now it was a little past 4 p.m. Lily will be back from school soon. Let me use this time to get things in order. And Michael did just that. He put the food products in their respective places and organized the rest of his purchases accordingly. Ah, I'm so tired. By the time Michael was done, he was famished. He had only had a light breakfast that morning, so he decided to cook something for himself using some of the ingredients he had bought from the mall. Meat was on the menu, too. Thanks to living with an aunt who was a chef, Michael's cooking skills weren't bad at all. He made rice and fried meat, and just as he finished, his cousin, Lily, arrived home. Lily, like her mom, had black hair, blue eyes, and a short stature. Michael, on the other hand, stood out in their family with his blonde hair, green eyes, and tall build. It wasn't surprising to the family of three, as they knew he wasn't an immediate relative, but it often puzzled outsiders who assumed they were directly related, at least until they heard their different surnames. "Good evening, Brother Michael," Lily greeted as she poked her head through the kitchen door. "What are you cooking? Is that meat? It smells so good." Watching his cousin drool, Michael smiled helplessly. "Go wash up first before you think of eating. I'll serve you a plate in the meantime." "Okay, Brother Michael." The foodie immediately turned to leave without saying anything else. However, she came back a few seconds later and stared at Michael hesitantly. "What happened?" Michael asked, confused. "Brother Michael," Lily began, her hands behind her back and her head lowered, "how was the awakening ceremony?" "Oh, so that's what this is about." Michael sighed at how similar the mother-daughter duo was. They didn't want to hurt his feelings, yet they didn't pretend to ignore them. Lily heard Michael sigh and thought it was because he had failed to awaken. "Don't be too sad, Brother Michael. Even if you fail to awaken, it's not like the world has ended. I believe you can also become a powerful cultivator and enter those mysterious realms, even if you can't access the land of origin. The future is still bright." Michael was speechless when he heard this. When did I say I failed to awaken? What's going on in this 15-year-old's mind? However, soon Michael burst into laughter, clearly amused. Lily was stunned when she saw Michael laugh until tears formed in his eyes. She wondered if he had gone mad from sadness. Maybe that explained why he had been so unusually calm earlier. Michael couldn't bear to see the increasingly worried look on his cousin's face, so he addressed her. "Who said I failed to awaken, silly? Why do you think we're having meat if there wasn't a special occasion?" Michael then gave her a brief summary of the events that happened that afternoon. He didn't go into much detail about the Supers Association but did mention the money. "Wow, Brother Michael, you're rich. What are you thinking? Stop looking at me like that. Brother Michael, hey, give me some money." Michael spent some time getting his sister's focus off his account balance with a few promises. Watching her hum and skip away in happiness, a gentle smile appeared on his face. Though it seemed like she was more excited about the money, he knew she was genuinely happy about his successful awakening. Michael took a deep breath and steeled himself before carrying a plate of food to his room. He had delayed for long enough. It was time to finally learn more about this awakening business. Chapter 8 Information about Awakeners in the Land of Origin 2. Michael's family lived in a rented 2-bedroom apartment on the second floor of a 6-story building, with 4 apartments on each floor. The living conditions and environment could be described as passable. Michael figured that once he had more money in the future, he would move his family to a better place. The young man was filled with dreams and plans for the future. Among the 2 bedrooms, one belonged to Michael, while the other was shared by his cousin and aunt. Michael always felt guilty about this arrangement, and this feeling carried over after his transmigration. Regardless of whatever ties they shared, it didn't change the fact that he wasn't their immediate family member. But perhaps it was like a saying he had heard on Earth, family isn't decided by blood. After entering his relatively empty room, Michael sat on a chair next to a desk filled with books and placed his plate on the table. Taking a mouthful of rice with his spoon, he brought out his phone and opened his email. There, he found several messages from the Supers Association. The first message he saw was a congratulatory note on his awakening, with a file containing the set of military standard cultivation techniques that the lady at the counter had mentioned. The file contained a breathing technique that had no specific attribute and a meditative technique that was purely aimed at increasing his mana pool, also without any elemental attribute. Michael knew what breathing and meditative techniques were. After all, he had also practiced the free breathing technique provided by the Federation to its citizens, though he had no noticeable talent for cultivation. However, this was where his confusion began. Though Michael had not yet taken the time to study the panel in his mind, he knew he wasn't mistaken when he saw a level-up system there. One piece of information he knew about Awakeners was that they could level up in the land of origin. This was why Awakeners grew stronger more quickly, and the land of origin was often said to resemble a game. So this begged the question, since he could level up, why bother cultivating? Though there were rumors that cultivation could grant someone a second class, none of the teachers in school dared to confirm it. Thankfully, there was a note in the file that soon cleared up Michael's confusion. So that's what it is. After reading the note in the file, Michael realized that just because Awakeners could level up, which in turn made them stronger, didn't mean that cultivating was useless to them. What happens when one can't level up in the short term and still wants to grow stronger? Cultivation could help fill that gap. It turned out that, aside from leveling up, Awakeners could actively enhance their strength through other means. The two techniques sent by the Supers Association belong to the Knight Cultivation System and the Mage Cultivation System, respectively. Michael was more familiar with the former than the latter. It was said that the cultivation systems and methods originated from the land of origin. For the Knight Cultivation System, one had to push their human body to its theoretical limit and light up a life seed within them to step onto the path of the supernatural, but this was no easy task. The theoretical limit of a human body was twice the strength and capabilities of an average human. Even good athletes were typically only about half as strong as this threshold. To become a rank 1 knight, a person needed to push their body to twice the capabilities of an average human. This was very difficult to achieve under normal circumstances, but with a breathing technique, one could use it as a catalyst to reach their human limit. After lighting up a life seed, they would gain a new upper limit and could continue to polish their life seed, thereby continually increasing their body's limits and becoming stronger. This method was primarily for ordinary humans, but Awakeners could also use breathing techniques to enhance their physical strength. The difference, however, was that they couldn't light up a life seed since, as Awakeners, they no longer had limits. However, the note in the file revealed something that surprised Michael, the existence of dual classes. According to the note, if one could light up a life seed before they awakened, as long as there was no conflict with the class they eventually awakened into and it wasn't the same, there was a high chance of acquiring a secondary class. This potential applied specifically to the Knight Cultivation System, which could awaken a secondary class, the Knight class. Michael didn't know much about the Mage system, and the note didn't elaborate on it. No wonder the principal and teachers kept mentioning that after registering with the Supers Association, we'd eventually learn what we needed to know. And this isn't even the only email I received, there's still that mysterious supernatural platform. Michael suddenly felt enlightened. Things that had been unclear to him before now made much more sense. The note that came with the techniques was really helpful. Unfortunately, he hadn't managed to become a knight before awakening, so he missed out on the chance for a dual class. Is this why the principal specifically told Brian to stay back? I don't know much about dual classes, but if one class can make someone stronger, it makes sense that having two would be even better. If that's the case, then Brian is indeed special, even among Awakeners. Michael didn't feel envious of this, though. He wasn't in competition with anyone. He was already happy just to have been fortunate enough to awaken. Michael continued to read through the note, and once he finished, he closed it. There was no need to rush into cultivation, he still had something else to do. Feeling excited, Michael turned to the other email sent by the Supers Association. This email contained a link, which, according to the lady who attended to him at the Supers Association, was his access to a platform made for all registered supernatural beings within the Federation. Without hesitation, Michael tapped the link, which led him to a browser page with a simple design. Chapter 9 Information about Awakeners in the Land of Origin 3. The page was simple, with a white background, the Supers Association's logo, and 2 empty bars for inputting an email and password. There wasn't anything particularly interesting to observe on this page, so Michael quickly entered his email and password according to the instructions given by the lady at the Supers Association. He felt a sense of anticipation. After all, this was a platform exclusively for supernatural beings, something he never could have imagined accessing in both his lives. Somehow, it feels like I've been invited into a secret organization. After inputting his details, Michael signed in. Soon, he was taken to a new page. Unlike the somewhat bland appearance of the login page, this one was more vibrant and lively. It looked like a forum. A lot seemed to be happening, but unfortunately, there wasn't any instruction manual. Not that one was needed. At first glance, the Supers Association forum didn't seem too different from a regular forum, aside from its content. Does anyone know the weakness of a swamp wyvern? Oi, seems like we have a big shot in the house. Father, if I recall correctly, wyverns are usually above level 30, right? That's a teenage wyvern, not exactly strong. It's the nonchalance of subtly calling a wyvern weak for me. Newbie cultivator here, how strong is a wyvern for us cultivators? A level 30 should be a commander rank beast for you guys, so yeah, you'll need a knight commander or mage commander to take on a wyvern. Dude, just say a rank 3 cultivator. It's not my fault, brother. Awakeners and cultivators, power systems can be confusing at times. That was the kind of content in the forum. Michael could only read in awe, unable to fully grasp most of it. Once again, the Supers Association delivered essential information right to his fingertips, not in the form of step-by-step guidance, but through an interactive platform. Since it was a forum, Michael could search for whatever information he needed or ask directly, which he did without hesitation. Though some of the posts on the homepage had intriguing titles, Michael stayed focused. Reading random posts wouldn't help him, he couldn't even understand much of what they discussed yet. Michael dove into a spree of information seeking, and the gaps in his understanding slowly began to fill. By the time he was done, it had already grown dark outside, but he hardly noticed. Reading through various posts on the forum had opened Michael's eyes wide. What shocked him most was the sheer power hidden within this world. We've always heard about cultivators and awakeners, but aside from a few basics about cultivators, like life seeds and the ranks that follow, everything else is shrouded in mystery. Information about awakeners is even more elusive. Michael felt a mix of shock, enlightenment, and excitement. It's my fault for underestimating the people of this world. In fact, it wasn't just Michael who had these misconceptions, even the original citizens of this world felt similarly. After all, it had only been a little over 200 years since Aurora first came into contact with Mana. How advanced could their civilization have become in such a short time? However, they were all wrong, very wrong. The truly powerful beings of this world were astonishingly strong. For example, Michael finally learned more about the power system of cultivators. There were 7 ranks in total, from rank 1 to 7, known respectively as Apprentice, Elite, Commander, Master, King, Emperor, and Demigod. Yes, Demigod. At first, Michael thought he had misread, but after checking 3 times and even watching a video of a demigod effortlessly defeating a 100-meter-tall monster with a casual slap, he was left speechless. He didn't know exactly how strong that monster was, but he was certain that a mere sneeze from it would have been enough to end his life. Even if such powerful beings were rare, they should not be few. If they were, the Federation and the Supers Association would likely have kept information about them under tight wraps. The Supers Association forum truly expanded Michael's perspective, and he found himself exhilarated by what he had learned. Power, I must have it. If before, becoming an awakener was mainly about improving his and his family's life, with living a fulfilling life as a secondary goal, now Michael's heart burned with a fierce desire for power. It took a while for Michael to calm down from the surge of excitement. He had also learned a lot about awakeners, particularly regarding the mysterious Land of Origin. The Land of Origin was a mystical realm that only awakeners could access. It was said to resemble a game world, complete with levels, quests, and more. But one should never mistake it for a game, or they would come to regret it deeply. What linked the Land of Origin to an awakener was the Mark of Origin. Michael glanced down at the back of his right hand, where a flower-like tattoo lay. This hadn't been there before. Michael had never gotten a tattoo. It only appeared after his awakening, this mysterious tattoo, following him ever since. The mark would only show if he wanted it to. The Mark of Origin had 2 primary functions. First, it served as a key to connect an awakener's consciousness with the Land of Origin. Second, it acted as a miniature spatial space. Yes, like a spatial storage ring. Michael had already checked off one of the must-haves on any transmigrator's list with this discovery. However, Michael was curious about what a gift meant, as his Mark of Origin was labeled as one. Yet, he couldn't find any information about it in the forum. This seemed implausible. Surely, all the awakeners in the Supers Association would be interested in this topic. So, there could only be one explanation: the information was restricted. It likely meant he wasn't yet authorized to access such knowledge. Michael felt he was on the right track with his guess, especially since, right next to the profile they created for him, Level 1 member, was clearly displayed in bold. This only made Michael more curious about what a gift was. If information about demigods could be accessed by a Level 1 member like him, even if it wasn't particularly in-depth, then the fact that details about gifts were hidden suggested that this subject was considered more important than even a demigod. Perhaps it held the same weight as matters concerning a god. Though the forum didn't have any direct mentions of gods, Michael couldn't help but suspect that they might exist in this world. It was only after exploring the forum that he realized just how deep the mysteries of this world ran. Fortunately, he could still investigate other information about the panel in his head, turning his attention to the next most intriguing aspect, his talent. According to what he found on the forum, talents could be seen as innate skills that could be used without the need for mana. They were akin to high-level skills, except that they were rare, even among awakeners. There were two ways awakeners could obtain a talent. One was through pure luck during the awakening ceremony, and the other was by seizing certain opportunities in the land of origin. It was clear that something extraordinary had landed in Michael's lap. However, he felt that his talent was a bit peculiar. Talent: Infinite Evolution. Evolution points: 1:16 hours, 09 minutes, 23 secs. Aside from the fact that something called evolution points would appear and accumulate every 24 hours, this talent seemed to be currently useless. Despite this, Michael was still pleased to have a talent. Even though he didn't understand its use yet, he was confident it would prove valuable in the future. From its name, Infinite Evolution, he held high expectations for what it might become. Author's note: Phew, it's finally time to kick the story into high gear. In the next chapter, we'll be stepping into the mysterious land of origin. Please don't forget to support this book, I'd appreciate it immensely. Chapter 10 Preparations. Michael also read a few things about classes and races, and he had something to say to his teacher who had claimed, there's no discrimination between classes. Bullshit. In reality, there wasn't any outright discrimination against classes from what Michael could see. However, unlike how his teacher had portrayed it, there was indeed a clear division between classes. There are no weak classes, only weak awakeners was a phrase Michael frequently encountered in the forum during his searches. But from what he had just read, it was undeniable that some classes held certain advantages over others. At least the school got one thing right: the classification of classes into combat, support, and lifestyle roles. Now, thanks to the Supers Association forum, Michael also discovered that there were actually 5 types of classes: general class, rare class, special class, hidden class, and unique class. General classes are the most commonly seen classes among awakeners. A large percentage of awakeners possess these classes, which is why they are considered common. These classes are also easily recognizable, as they provide only 2 attribute points per level up. Rare classes are a step above general classes, offering 4 attribute points per level up. These classes can utilize magic or other special abilities. However, a class does not necessarily need to focus on magic to be categorized as rare, like the Berserker class, for example. Special classes are somewhat unique and unconventional, which makes them difficult to categorize strictly as either general or rare. For instance, the Chef class provides 3 attribute points per level up, while a Barb class might only grant 2 attribute points, despite both being special classes. The term, special, refers more to their unconventional nature and niche focus. These classes can be considered rarer than rare classes, but their unique nature makes them versatile in how they are grouped. Hidden classes are inheritance-type classes that very few people can have simultaneously. Similar to special classes, they are rare, but they have an added layer of exclusivity. Hidden classes cannot be naturally awakened but can only be obtained through special means, which makes them particularly elusive. Unique classes are the rarest of all, with only one person able to possess a particular unique class at any given time. There wasn't much information about unique classes on the forum, but Michael didn't think that was actually the case. He read somewhere that the number of awakeners in Aurora was a bit more than 70,000, and he found it hard to believe that no one had any information about unique classes. If they truly knew nothing, it wouldn't even be recognized as a legitimate class type. Michael believed it wasn't that information about unique classes didn't exist on the forum, rather, it was that his authority level wasn't high enough to access such information. It seems authority level isn't just for show. I should try my best to raise it, Michael thought with a subtle smile on his face. Even though it felt like his head might explode from all this new information, it was as if a fascinating new world had opened up to him, and he couldn't get enough of it. These worlds are truly interesting with a lot to offer. Something else that surprised Michael was that even one's race could influence the benefits they received when leveling up. This revelation opened another world to Michael. From what he read, each level up as a human race granted 0.2 in all stats, 0.5 in intelligence, and 2 attribute points. Michael wasn't sure if this was low or not, but it seemed significant. Since they say the land of origin is like a game world, I wonder if it's possible to change races, Michael mused. Out of curiosity, he tried searching for information on the possibility in the forum, but like in the cases of gifts and unique classes, he found nothing. As before, this either meant the information didn't exist or his authority level wasn't high enough. Michael, already used to this, decided to move on. He also read about his class, the Necromancer, which, pleasantly surprising, turned out to be a rare class. Races weren't the only things that provided benefits as one leveled up, classes did too. Aside from the attribute points they provided based on their grade, certain stats would be boosted depending on the class's specialty. The Necromancer class, for instance, granted 0.1 points to Strength and Constitution, 0.3 in Agility, and 0.5 in Intelligence, along with 4 attribute points. Necromancers are basically paper defenses. A punch from a similar level warrior class could probably take out more than half my health, Michael thought immediately. He also began to understand why people in the forum kept emphasizing that power ultimately depended on the Awakener themselves. Classes, race, cultivation, resources that could raise stats themselves, and attribute points, if one utilized these things wisely, even an Awakener with a Tailor class could become deadly. The more Michael read, the more excited he became about the future. He couldn't wait to enter the land of origin, but he knew he couldn't rush in without making proper preparations. Yes, preparations. As an Awakener, he was naturally bound to enter the land of origin, but according to the forum, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows there, especially for new Awakeners. In a Tips for Newbies forum post, which was even starred by the Supers Association, Michael learned that when an Awakener entered the land of origin for the first time, their initial location was random. It could be near an active volcano, a frozen wasteland, or even in a monster's nest. However, there was a balance. According to the post, it would be something a new Awakener should be able to handle theoretically, and Michael didn't like the sound of that, hence his need to prepare. Even the experienced commenters in the post emphasized the importance of preparation. Thanks to the post, Michael also understood why the Supers Association provided such generous funds. It was indeed meant for resources. In the Supers Association platform, aside from the main forum, there was also a store section. Michael saw a myriad of goods there that left him in awe. Refined iron dagger. Price, $230. Refined iron spear. Price, $285. Health potion. Price, $500. Leather pants. Leather shoes. Leather upper body armor. Michael searched for items recommended for newbies and picked the ones he liked. The store had 2 delivery methods, picking up at the Supers Association or opting for home delivery. Michael decisively chose the latter. If he could avoid leaving home, why should he move? Plus, compared to the total cost of the items he bought, the delivery fee was cheaper. Including the delivery fee, Michael spent a total of $4,328. Just like that, a third of the $15,000 the Supers Association had given him was gone. The Supers Association is really scummy. Michael pouted in pain as he connected his account to the Supers Association platform and watched his money disappear. Michael did not regret buying the items, though. Even though death in the land of origin wasn't real death, if he could prevent it, why shouldn't he? The penalty for dying was harsh, losing 10% of all stats permanently for each death. The dead Awakener would also be unable to re-enter the land of origin for a while. Perhaps this penalty wouldn't be as severe for new Awakeners, but it was a big deal for the real powerhouses. Imagine having 100 points in all stats and watching 10 permanently disappear. It was a pretty harsh punishment for the top-tier Awakeners. After all, the stronger one was, the harder it was to increase a stat. It wasn't just numbers at that point. A 1-point stat increase for a level 100 Awakener could very well be the equivalent of 10 points for Michael. After placing his order, the Supers Association platform confirmed that his items would be delivered before noon the next day, which Michael was quite satisfied with. It's not too late to enter the land of origin tomorrow anyway. It's even better. I'm too exhausted to do anything now. Michael was also very hungry. He had learned a lot of information, which significantly filled the gaps in his understanding. Anything else he needed to know could be searched for slowly in the future. For now, Michael just wanted to sleep and wait for the new day to arrive before entering the land of origin. He was excited, but he had his priorities straight. Michael put aside his phone and was just about to carry the plate he'd used earlier when a knock came at his door. "Come in," he said reflexively. When he saw who was on the other side, he was surprised. Aunt, yes, it was indeed Aunt Mia. Michael had been so engrossed in the Supers Association forum that he hadn't noticed anyone entering the house. "Seems like our new awakener has been busy," Aunt Mia teased as she made her way to Michael's bed and made herself comfortable. "Aunt Mia," Michael said, a little embarrassed by the title, but a happy smile bloomed on his face. He could see a smile on Aunt Mia's face, too, one that was threatening to widen, and hidden within, he could also see that she was proud of him. One must know that both Michaels, from Earth and Aurora, had only experienced true parental love from one person, and that was Aunt Mia. Both had become orphans at a very young age, and Aunt Mia was a mother figure to them, especially to the Michael originally from this world. Though Aunt Mia had a short stature, her blue eyes held the gaze of a mother looking at her child. Michael greeted her respectfully, and he was happy that she was happy. Before he could speak, Aunt Mia beat him to it. "Lily told me about your little adventure today." Michael silently clicked his tongue in annoyance. Perhaps he shouldn't have told Lily anything at all. Now the news he should have delivered himself had come through someone else. But, since it was all family, it didn't really matter. "The amount of money the association gave you is really big, but be careful with it, Michael," Aunt Mia said anxiously. In her eyes, Michael was still a young boy. She had no interest in his money, but she was worried about his spending habits. Though Michael's past record of handling money reassured her, this time the amount was so much larger, and she couldn't help but worry that he might waste it. "And don't mind your silly cousin. There's no need, Aunt Mia," Michael called out, his tone serious, cutting her off before she could continue. He already knew what she wanted to say, but he didn't want to hear it. His family was his motivation, his drive. Now that he could finally provide for them, how could she refuse? Michael felt dissatisfied. "Aunt Mia, the money the association gave me, well, a big chunk of it is for my well-being, so you don't have to worry about anything." As he spoke, Michael had already pulled out his phone, ready to transfer a portion of the funds to her. "Michael," Aunt Mia exclaimed anxiously. She didn't entirely believe his words and feared he was going to inconvenience himself for her. In fact, she was right. But did Michael care? No, he didn't. This was likely a stupid decision, but for once, at least one, Michael wanted to satisfy his selfish desire. And also, if he ended up broke, he could wait for more funds to come in next month, all the while working hard in other areas. Michael wasn't afraid of hard work. Ironically, hard work was what had killed the Michael in this world. The hopeful fool had seen a rumor online that if one trained hard enough to come close to becoming a knight, the chance of awakening would be higher. The original Michael knew this was nonsense, but feeling unlucky and with many responsibilities on his shoulders, he pushed himself too hard. In the end, he died, allowing Michael from Earth to take his place. "It's okay, Aunt Mia. You don't know this, but the Supers Association is still going to give me more resources soon," Michael said, lying with a straight face. It was, of course, impossible. The association wasn't going to do more for him. They weren't his family, and even some families couldn't always provide that much. "Are you lying to me?" Aunt Mia asked, a little uncertain. "You know I'd never lie to you, Aunt Mia," he said, delivering another lie with an innocent face. This time, he felt a slight pang of guilt but didn't let it show. Aunt Mia looked conflicted, her expression reflecting her mixed feelings. Michael noticed her hesitation and knew he had to strike while the iron was hot. "Also, since becoming an awakener, I can feel my appetite slowly increasing. We'll need more food at home, Aunt Mia." Michael spoke with a feigned look of seriousness, but just in time, his stomach rumbled, adding authenticity to his words. This convinced Aunt Mia a little. What made her trust his words even more was his status as an awakener. As an awakener, he should be valued by the Federation, right? she thought. Like most adults, she knew of the Federation's admiration for Awakeners, though she didn't know that while they valued Awakeners, they weren't exactly looking to pamper them. Finally, Aunt Mia chose to believe Michael. Okay, she agreed. Happy, Michael immediately transferred some money to her. Feel free to use it as you like, Aunt Mia. And please, get a few things that Lily enjoys too, he added with confidence, like a rich man. Just then, Aunt Mia's phone buzzed, showing a bank notification of a $5,000 credit. Aunt Mia was speechless and was about to scold Michael when he spoke again. Trust me, Aunt Mia. This money is nothing to me now. Didn't Lily mention that I'll be getting money every month? Aunt Mia nodded reluctantly. If he was telling the truth, her little Michael could indeed afford to spend money like this. However, she decided that, while she'd use some of the money for the family's well-being, she'd save the rest until she could confirm his words. Seeing that he'd successfully convinced his aunt, Michael secretly sighed in relief as a smile appeared on his face. You're hungry, right? I brought some cake and snacks on my way back. Want some? Aunt Mia asked, remembering the thunder that had erupted from his stomach earlier. Yes, I'd love some, Aunt Mia. After confirming, Aunt Mia took the plate Michael had planned to carry out earlier and left the room, returning shortly with some snacks. They shared a few more words before Aunt Mia left, and Michael's room finally fell quiet. Soon, the soft sound of his snores filled the room. Michael slept with a smile on his face that night. Today had been the best day of his life, even if it was just as stressful.